The application for asylum, Form I-589, paper version. Hi, welcome from ASAP, the Asylum Seeker Advocacy Project. In this video, we will talk about how to complete the United States Asylum application, Form I-589. This video is for adults who are eligible for asylum and want to complete a Form I-589 application on paper. There is also an online version of the application, but only some people can apply online. You can learn more about the online application on ASAP's website. The link is also below this video. The questions on the online application are generally the same. The Form I-589 is long and complicated, and it takes time and patience to complete, but you can do it. Remember to tell the truth in your answers, be patient with yourself, and take breaks in between completing the sections if you need them. Just do it question by question, and we are here to support you. In Section 1 of this video, first, we will take a few minutes to give you general information about applying for asylum. Then, in Section 2, we will show you how to find the form and prepare to get started. In Section 3, the longest part of the video, we will take you through completing the form page by page. Then in Section 4, we will talk about the additional documents that you can send with Form I-589 when you submit it. And finally, in Section 5, we will talk about how and where you submit the form. Section 1. General Information. What is asylum? Asylum is a form of immigration status for people afraid of returning to their country of origin. Applying for asylum is a personal choice. It may also be a complicated decision depending on your situation. If you are deciding whether you should file for asylum in the United States, you can learn more on ASAP's website. You can also find that link below this video. The Form I-589 is also, at the same time, an application for withholding of removal. Withholding of removal can protect even certain people who do not qualify for asylum from being deported to a country where they face danger. What is the deadline to apply for asylum? In most cases, if you decide to apply for asylum, you must file your Form I-589 within 1 year of arriving in the United States. But there are some exceptions to that rule, such as if you had another immigration status before, such as parole, or if you were under age 18, or if you were not previously in danger in your country of origin, but now circumstances have changed. You can learn more about those exceptions here. You can also find that link below the video. Is there a cost to apply for asylum? Yes. In the past, it was free to file an asylum application. But in July 2025, the U.S. government began charging a fee to file for asylum and another fee each year after that to continue with your asylum case. You can find up-to-date information about the fees here. That link is also below this video. How do I add my family members? You will see in this video that the application for asylum, Form I-589, has sections where you provide information about your spouse and children. If they are also in the United States, you can check a box to include them in your asylum application. Then, if you are applying for asylum with USCIS, or if you and your family members are in the same case in immigration court, they also automatically win asylum if you win asylum. There are some situations where it may also make sense for each member of the family to file their own separate Form I-589. You can learn about those situations here. Again, you can find the link below this video. Even if your spouse or your children file separate Form I-589s, you can still include them in your asylum application too. Section 2. Getting ready to start. How to find Form I-589. To find the asylum application form, type in I-589 in the search bar of your internet browser and click Search. Then, click on I-589 Application for Asylum and for Withholding of Removal. Once you are here on the USCIS website, scroll down to where it says Forms and Document Downloads and open that. Then click Form I-589 to open the application. Then download the form. On my computer, you do that here. You might do it differently on your computer or your phone and save the file. Once you have downloaded it, open the file so you can begin typing your answers. Remember to save frequently. On my computer, you do that here so that you do not lose your work. Once you complete your answers, you will need to print the form and then write your signature using a pen with black ink. On my computer, I click here to print. Notice that it might give you a message like this to remind you to sign it. You can also print the Form I-589 blank and then on paper complete it by hand with a pen with black ink. Do not use a pencil. Usually, you can find a computer and printer at your local public library. You can also find a copy of the form at immigration courts. Also, you can find translations of the form and instructions in 12 languages on this same USCIS webpage, down here near the bottom where it says Forms in Other Languages. But, and this is important, the official form that you actually complete and give to the government must be in English. A few tips before you start. Here are some general tips before we get started on the form. First, as I mentioned, the official form is only available in English and you must complete it in English. Also, any other documents that you include with the form, if they are not in English, must have a translation into English and a certificate of translation. You can find a link to a sample certificate of translation below this video. Second, make sure to complete every question. If there are questions you do not know the answer to, write unknown or I do not know. If there are questions that do not apply to you, you can write N/A, which stands for not applicable. Third, it is important to be honest on the asylum application. If you are not sure of a particular detail or date, you can simply say that truthfully. It is okay to say things like, I am not sure of the exact number, or approximately. Fourth, if you include documents like passports or birth certificates with your asylum application, Do not send the originals. Only send photocopies. In the future, you should bring the originals to any interview or hearing. Section 3. Completing Form I-589, question by question. Now we can get started with the Form I-589 itself. The application is 12 pages long. It is split into 3 main sections. As you can see here, Part A asks for biographical information about you, like your current address, information about your family, and things like your education and employment history. Part B asks questions about why you are seeking asylum. And Part C asks additional questions, like whether you have any criminal history. You can check boxes on this form by clicking them if you are filling it out on a computer or phone, like this. If you are filling it out by hand, you can write an X in the box with a pen in black ink. Part A.I. Biographical information about you. This first part of the form asks for information about you, like your complete name and your current address. This note at the top of the page asks you to check the box if you want to apply for withholding of removal under the Convention Against Torture. If you check that box, then Form I-589 functions as both an application for asylum and also as an application for protection under the Convention Against Torture. There is no additional fee or form to complete to apply for both forms of protection. Most applicants check this box. Checking this box may be important so that you do not miss the opportunity to ask for all the forms of protection that may apply to you. We'll check it here in our example. This first question, number 1, asks for your A number. If you have been detained by immigration officials or had another immigration case before, you probably have an A number. The A number is an immigration identification number used by the U.S. government. It has 9 digits. You can find it in your immigration documents, like documents from ICE, a hearing notice from the immigration court, or notices if you ever had a different type of immigration case. You may not have an A number if you have not been in an immigration process or immigration detention in the United States before. If you do not have an A number, you can write N/A like this. Again, NA stands for not applicable, and you can write it when a question does not apply to you. Here, on question 2, if you have a Social Security number, write it here. If you do not have a Social Security number, again, you can write N/A. On question 3, write your USCIS online account number if you have one. On questions 4, 5, and 6, write your full name, starting with your last name, then your first name, then your middle name, if you have one. Here on question 7, if you have ever used another name, write that here. For question 8, you can provide your physical address. That's where you live. And in question 9, if you receive mail at a different address from the one you wrote in question 8, you can provide that mailing address here. For question 10, you can select your sex. For question 11, select your marital status: single, married, divorced, or widowed. Next, in question 12, write your date of birth in the month, day, year format. For example, March 17th, 1988, I just made up that date, would be 03/17/1988. Write your city and country of birth in question 13. Question 14 asks for your current nationality or citizenship. Question 15 asks for your nationality at birth. For question 16, write your race, ethnic, or tribal group. In question 17, write your religion if you have one. Question 18 asks if you have had a case in immigration court. Select the box that applies to your situation. If you have never had a case in immigration court, you can check this first box, A. If you have a case in immigration court right now, you can check B. And if you had a case in immigration court in the past, but the judge completely closed your case, you can check C here. If you are not sure about the answer, this page on ASAP's website can help you learn how to check if you have a case in immigration court. You can also find that link below this video. This first part of question 19, write the date when you last left your country of citizenship. Remember to use that same format that you did for your date of birth, month/date/year. Next, over here, if you were given a form called an I-94 when you entered the United States, write the number from it here. Below, on this first line, write the date of your most recent entry to the United States. Next, write the place of your most recent entry. If you had legal status, like a visa or parole, when you entered, you can write that here under status, and then write the date it expired or will expire here. If you did not have legal status when you entered the United States, you can write here no status where it says status. On the lines below, if you entered the United States in the past, write the date, place, and status for any previous times that you entered the United States. For questions 20, 21, and 22, include information about your passport if you have one. Most people do not have a travel document. If you do not, you can type again N/A. For question 23, write your native language. For question 24, select yes if you speak English fluently and no if you do not. For question 25, write the names of any other languages that you speak fluently. Part A.II, biographical information about your spouse and your children. The next two sections ask for information about your spouse or children. If you are not married or do not have children, you can check these boxes that say, I am not married, or, down here, I do not have any children. Then, you can write NA in the spaces. If you check those boxes that you do not have a spouse or children, you can also skip ahead to the next section of this video. If you do have a spouse or children, complete these sections by providing the requested information. If there are questions you do not know the answer to, you can write unknown. If there are questions that do not apply to their situation, you can write N/A. If you are married, write your spouse's A number, if any, here on question 1, their passport number, if any, on question 2, their date of birth on question 3, and their social security number, if any, on question 4. Next, write your spouse's full name on questions 5, 6, and 7, starting with their last name, then first name, then middle name, if they have one. Question 8 asks if your spouse has ever used a different name, for example, a maiden name. On question 9, write the date you got married to your spouse. And for question 10, write where you got married. For question 11, write the city and country where your spouse was born. For question 12, write your spouse's nationality. And for 13, write their race, ethnic, or tribal group. For question 14, select your spouse's sex. Question 15 asks if your spouse is currently in the United States. If they are not in the United States, select No, and write the city and country where they live here on the line to the right. If you select No to this question, you do not need to complete questions 16 through 24 below. If your spouse is currently in the United States, then select Yes. Write the place where they last entered the United States on question 16, and the date they last entered on question 17. On question 18, write their I-94 number if they have one. On question 19, if they entered with a visa or parole, specify the type of visa or write parole. If they did not enter with a visa or parole, you can write none or leave it blank. On question 20, if your spouse has an immigration status like TPS or parole or a visa status, write it here. If they do not have a status, you can write no status. If your spouse has a date when their immigration status will end, write that date on question 21. On question 22, if they currently have a case in immigration court, select Yes. If they do not have a case in immigration court, select No. On question 23, if your spouse had previously entered the United States before this most recent entry, write that date here. On question 24, if your spouse is in the United States and you would like to include them in your application, then select Yes. If not, select No. Most people include their spouse, even if their spouse is filing their own asylum application, so they check Yes. Next, the form asks whether you have children. If you do not have children, select the box that says, I do not have any children. If you do have children, select I have children, and write how many children you have in the blank space here to the right. Then, write your child's A number, if any, on question 1, their passport number, if any, on question 2, their marital status, married, single, divorced, or widowed, on question 3, and their social security number, if they have one, on question 4. Next, write your child's full name on questions 5, 6, and 7, starting with their last name, then first name, then middle name, if they have one. On question 8, write their date of birth. For question 9, write the city and country where your child was born. For question 10, write your child's nationality. And for 11, write their race, ethnic, or tribal group. For question 12, select your child's sex. For question 13, if your child is currently in the United States, select yes. If they are not, select no, and write the city and country where they live. If you selected no to this question, you do not need to complete questions 14 through 21 of this part. If your child is currently in the United States, you're checking yes, and on question 14, write the place where they last entered, and on question 15, the date they last entered. On question 16, write their I-94 number if they have one. On question 17, if they entered with a visa or parole, specify the type of visa or write parole. If they did not enter with a visa or parole, you can write none or leave it blank. If your child has an immigration status like TPS or parole or a visa status, write it on question 18. If not, write no status. If your child has a date when their immigration status will end, write that date on question 19. If they currently have a case in immigration court, select yes on question 20. If they do not have a case in immigration court, select no. If your child is in the United States and you would like to include them in your application, select yes on question 21. If not, select no. Most people include their child even if their child is filing their own asylum application, so they select yes. If you have more than one child, you can provide the same information for your other children here on the next page. If you run out of room, you can continue on to Supplement A, found near the end of the form, here on page 11. Part A.III, Information about your background. Now, we will go to Part A.III. It asks for more information about your background. This section can take a long time to complete because it asks for specific dates, addresses, and names. But you can do it, question by question. And remember, if you do not know specific dates or names, you can write in approximate dates, or you can write unknown. On question 1, write the last address where you lived before coming to the U.S. Write the date you began living there, where it says from, and the date that you left there, where it says to. For these dates, you can write only the month and the year. If that address is not in your country of origin, then in addition to the last address where you lived before coming to the U.S., also provide information about your last address in your country of origin. In question 2, write all of the addresses where you have lived over the last 5 years. Start with the address where you currently live at the top. Then, on the next line, write the address where you lived before that, and underneath, the address where you lived before that. For each address, again, write the date you started living there and the date you left there. Once you go back 5 years, you can stop. Question 3 asks for your education history. Provide the names, type of school, locations, and dates attended for each school where you studied. Again, start with the most recent on this first line. Then, write the school you attended before that on the line below. Continue until you have written all the schools that you attended. Question 4 asks for your employment history over the past 5 years. Provide the names and addresses of your employers, the type of work you did, and the dates that you worked there. Include employment you have had in both the United States and in other countries. List your current job if you have one, or your most recent job on this first line. Then, the job you had before that on the next line. Continue until you have gone back 5 years. You do not need to go back farther than 5 years. Finally, question 5 on this page asks for information about your parents and your siblings. You can provide their full names here on the left side. Next to the names of your parents and siblings, write the towns and countries where they were born here, and their current locations here. The current location can just be the country where they live. If they are deceased, you can check this box that says deceased. If you do not know information, you can type unknown. Sometimes there is not enough space to write someone's full name, or maybe you have more than 4 siblings. If you run out of space, you can add additional information using Supplement B at page 12 here at the very end of the application. Part B. Questions about why you are seeking asylum. The next part of the application asks questions about why you are seeking asylum. This section asks you to provide information about harm you experienced or are afraid of experiencing in the future if you have to return to your country. If there is more than one reason that you are afraid to return to your country, do your best to explain all the reasons. To win asylum, you must show all of the following things. 1. That you have been harmed or have good reason to fear that you will be harmed in your country of origin. 2. That this harm is because of at least one of these 5 specific reasons: your race, your religion, your nationality, your political opinion, or because you belong to a particular social group. 3. That the government of your country of origin caused or will cause this harm, or that the government is unwilling or unable to protect you from this harm. 4. That you cannot relocate to another part of your country and be safe there. This video, called "Your Case is in Your Hands," is a good guide to thinking about your asylum case. Watching it might be helpful before you complete this section. It is available in 9 languages. You can also find the link to the video in the first comment below this video. Okay, here we are on page 5, Part B. Let us start with question 1 of this section. It asks you to say why you are applying for protection. You can check more than one box. You can check all of the boxes here that could possibly apply to your particular situation. You can also check the torture convention box here if you also want to apply for withholding of removal under the Convention Against Torture. Think about the reasons that you experienced harm or would risk harm if you had to return. Would you be harmed because of what you believe or things about yourself that you cannot change or should not have to change? We will give some examples here, but you should check the boxes that apply to your specific reasons. Here is one example. If someone was harmed or fears harm because they oppose their country's government, they might check this box for political opinion. And if the reason they oppose the government is because the government mistreats people of their race or ethnic group, they might also check this box for race. They might also check torture convention. Or another example is if someone was targeted because they are gay. Notice that there is not a specific box to check for that. So they might check the box that says membership in a particular social group. And if they believe they were also targeted because they believe that gay people should have more rights in their country, they might also check the box political opinion. Possibly also torture convention. Again, notice that you can check multiple boxes. Another example could be if someone was targeted because they are a member of their family. In that situation, they could check membership in a particular social group, possibly also torture convention. Again, these were just examples to help explain this question. You can check all the boxes that may apply to you based on your specific circumstances. After choosing a box or boxes here, write details about the reasons you selected here below in questions 1A and 1B. Question 1A here asks if you or your family or close friends have experienced harm, threats, or mistreatments in the past. If you have, you can check yes, and then, in the space provided, explain what harm happened. In this space, you can try to answer these questions. What exactly was the harm or mistreatment? You can provide details here. Who harmed, mistreated, or threatened you, your family, or your friends? Was it the government or people that the government cannot control or does not try to control? When did it happen? If it happened more than once, write about each time. You can give details. Why did it happen? In other words, how was it because of the reason that you checked in the box or boxes above? Your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. How do you know that the harm was connected to that reason or reasons you checked above? And did you report it to the police or other authority? If so, what happened? If you did not report it, why not? Would your government have protected you if you had reported it? That might sound like a lot of information, to fit in this space on the form. But if you need more space for this or any other question, you can write more in this extra space on the last page of the application, called Supplement B. If you still need even more space, you can make more copies of this last page. Or you can continue providing even more detail on a separate written statement called a declaration. If you add a separate written declaration, it must include your printed name, your A number if you have one, and your signature and the date. Going back, question 1B is similar to 1A, but the difference is that it asks if you are afraid that you would suffer harm or mistreatment in the future if you would return to your country. If you do fear that, you can check yes, and then in the space provided, explain what you are afraid will happen to you if you must return to your country. Again, you can include information about who you fear will harm you, and again, why you believe they would target you specifically, explaining the connection to the reason or reasons you checked up here. If you would not be safe in any other part of your country, you can say that and explain why. And if you think the police could not or would not protect you, you can explain why. And again, if you need more space, you can use that extra page at the end, Supplement B, or add an additional written declaration. Moving on. Question 2 asks if you or your family members have ever been accused, charged, arrested, or imprisoned in any country other than the United States. If not, you can check no. If you check yes, provide an explanation in the space below. Question 3A asks if you or your family members have ever belonged to an organization or a group in your home country. If not, you can check no. But if you have, you can check yes. For example, if you were a member of a political party or labor union or religious group, you can check yes and provide information about your participation in the group in the space below, including the level of participation, length of participation, and any positions held. For question 3B, check no if you no longer participate in the groups, and yes if you do. If you check yes, explain your current level of participation. For question 4, check yes if you are afraid that you will suffer torture if you must return to your country. Torture can be any kind of serious physical or psychological harm. If you are afraid to return to your country, you can check yes here. Then, in the space provided, explain what harm you fear suffering if you must return to your country. The answer to this question can be similar to the answer you gave in 1B on the last page. Part C. Other questions to check your eligibility for asylum. Okay, we are making good progress. You have already completed many of the most difficult parts of the form. Part C, coming up, includes questions to check for potential reasons that may disqualify you from asylum. The U.S. government prohibits some people from getting asylum for specific reasons, For example, if they have certain kinds of criminal convictions or have been deported before. Even if you do not qualify for asylum, you may still qualify for withholding of removal or protection under the Convention Against Torture, other protections against being returned to danger in your country of origin. This same Form I-589 application functions as an application for those protections also. Also, just because you select yes to a question here does not mean that you will be automatically disqualified from asylum. However, if you answer yes to any of the questions in this section, it may be especially helpful to talk with an immigration lawyer about the specifics of your case. You can use this web page to help you look for an immigration lawyer in your area. You can also find that link below this video. Okay, let's go through the questions in Part C of the form. Question 1 asks if you, your spouse, your children, or your siblings ever applied for refugee status, asylum, or withholding of removal before. Check no if none of you have applied before. If you check yes, explain in the box. If you have applied for asylum before, include any new circumstances in your country or in your personal life that have changed that make you eligible for asylum now. Question 2A asks if you traveled through another country on your way to the United States. Question 2B asks if you or any family members have applied for or received lawful status in another country besides your country of origin. If you answer yes to either question, explain in the box below the name of the country, how long you stayed in the other country, whether you have any status in the other country, and if you applied for asylum in that country, and if not, why you left that country, and whether you would be allowed to return to that country for lawful residence. Question 3 asks if you, your spouse, or your children ever caused or participated in causing harm or suffering to any person because of their race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. Check no if you have not. Check yes if you have, and provide an explanation. Question 4 asks if you returned to your country after you left. Check no if you have not. Check yes if you have, and provide an explanation that includes the information listed here. Question 5 asks if you are filing your application more than 1 year after your last arrival to the United States. If the answer is yes, provide an explanation for why you did not file within the first year. Usually, you must file within 1 year of arriving in the United States, but there are some exceptions. For example, if you had another immigration status before, are under age 18, or were not previously in danger in your country, but now circumstances have changed. You can learn more about those exceptions here. You can also find that link below the video. Question 6 asks if you or any of your family members included in your application have committed a crime or been arrested for a crime in the United States. If the answer is yes, you can provide an explanation in the space below. This is one of those situations where it may be a good idea to first talk to an immigration lawyer. Part D, the signature page. In Part D, you will see here an oath that you make by signing the application. The oath states that you are filing the asylum application in good faith. That means that it is based on an honest fear of returning to your country and that the facts you provided in your application are truthful. When you are ready, print your name here in the box that says print your complete name. Then write your name in your native alphabet in this box to the right that says write your name in your native alphabet. Even if your native alphabet is English, or the alphabet is similar to English, you can still write your name again. If your spouse, parent, or children helped you to fill out the application, select Yes for this question and write out their name and relationship to you. If anyone else who is not your spouse, parent, or child helped you to complete the application, select Yes for this question here below. If you check Yes, the person helping you to fill out the application should also complete and sign Part E here at the bottom of the page. Here, the form also asks you if you have been provided with a list of organizations that may be able to represent you in your asylum case. People who are released from immigration detention often get this list. Check Yes if you received a list of organizations, and No if you did not. Sign your name here by the arrow and write the date. If you are typing the information on your phone or a computer and then later plan to print the form I-589, do not forget to go back and sign the form here with a black ink pen after you print it. On this next page, page 10, you do not need to fill out Part F or Part G until your asylum interview or your immigration court hearing. You can leave these blank for now. Supplements A and B. There are two supplements, Supplement A and Supplement B. Supplement A here is for any additional children that did not fit in the space provided earlier in the application. Here, you can list the information for any additional children that you have. Supplement B here is for any additional information that did not fit into the space provided for any other previous answer on the form. Make sure to specify what part and question you are including additional information for. For example, if you need additional room to answer the first question about your asylum claim, this one here about if you've ever experienced harm or mistreatment or threats in the past, you'll look here and see that it's in Part B, Question 1A. So then you'll go back to Supplement B on the last page of the form, and you would write in Part B, Question 1A. Also, make sure to fill out this top part of these supplement pages with your A number, if you have one, your name, and then the date and signature. And just like on the signature page, if you're typing this on a computer or phone, remember to go back and write in your signature with a black ink pen after you print the form. So, that is the end of the asylum application. Congratulations! You made it through all the pages and questions of this very long form. Section 4. Supporting documents to include with Form I-589. Along with your asylum application, you should include a photocopy of all pages of your passport if you have it. Make sure to include all pages, from cover to cover. If you do not have a passport, include a letter explaining that you do not have a passport in your possession. If you entered the United States with some form of permission, like a visa or parole, you can also include a copy of those documents with your application. If you are including your spouse in your asylum application, include a copy of your marriage certificate. If you are including a child in your application, include a copy of their birth certificate. You should also include copies of their passports, from cover to cover, and United States entry documents if they have them. For all of these documents, remember, do not send originals. Only send photocopies. And if the document is in a language that is not English, include a translation and certificate of translation. You can provide other evidence to support your asylum case if you have it. Here are some examples: medical records, police reports, photographs, letters or declarations from people who can confirm what you have said in your application, or news articles about the issues that make you afraid to return to your country. These are just some ideas. Different people will have different evidence. You can learn more about the evidence that you can submit to support your asylum case at this webpage. You can also find that link below this video. It is good to include as much evidence as you can now with your Form I-589. But after you file your asylum application, you should also still be able to provide additional documents with more evidence. Finally, make sure to include the fee for the asylum application. You can find up-to-date information about the fees here. That link is also below this video. Section 5. Where to file Form I-589, paper version. Where to file the paper asylum application depends on whether you have a case in immigration court or not. If you do not have a case in immigration court, then you can mail your asylum application to USCIS. If you do have a case in immigration court, then you generally present your asylum application to the immigration court where you have your case, by mail or in person at the court. But there are some exceptions, like if you are an unaccompanied child. You also need to give a copy of your asylum application to the government lawyer if you are filing your application in a case in immigration court. You can find more detailed information about where and how to submit the asylum application here. You can also find this link below. How to find more information if you need it. To find more information, such as about the steps of the asylum process after you submit Form I-589, we encourage you to use ASAP's website. To find it, type asaptogether.org. That's ASAPTOGETHER.org into any browser, And you'll see that it has a lot of useful information like other videos, legal updates, and here, many dozens of questions and detailed answers for people who are seeking asylum. We hope that this video has been helpful to you. Thank you for watching and for being part of the ASAP community.